to another episode of Ask Community webinar series, where not only we give tips on how to empower your teamwork, but also gain valuable insights from our guest speakers who are experts in different industries. Now, before we start, if you're interested in our webinars, you can check out our YouTube channel here for our past webinars, or visit the link below to see what's coming up in the future. Without further ado, let's jump right straight into today's conversation with Wesley on how his journey from a teen entrepreneur to the sales wizard. Hi, Wesley. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure. I'm glad you used the word wizard. It's a lot more fun for me.
Yeah, I think there's like a bit of issues in terms of sounds. I think like my internet is like a bit slow, so sorry about that. So I can see that your experiences in the sales industries are so admirable. You had a few years with SnapScan, helping to build it to become the biggest mobile payments provider in South Africa. And you're also the head of sales at Specno, an app development agency. And now you're leading as a Dubai expansion manager at Astrolab. And I gotta say, I was really happy to see that you guys were using Slides for one of your meetings. And like all of this started from your first gig of being a sales agent at Swillen Damn Smart. Did I pronounce that correctly?
100%. 100%.
But you did start a business on your own rate before that. What was the business, Wesley?
So yeah, it's quite a bit before Swillen Damn Smart. It was at the age of 13. So there's a bit of a story behind it. I think coming from a troubled childhood, you try and find your escapes. And my escape was virtual worlds. I think that everybody always talks about it these days, like metaverses and all those kind of whatever hype word you want to use for it currently. But virtual worlds have been around since the early 2000s and even late 90s. So as a 13-year-old, I was lying about my age, joined the virtual world, and I had to find a way. I didn't have a credit card, so I had to find a way to get this virtual currency to be able to play the game. And I actually started two businesses in this virtual world. The one was first just buying and selling items, so just trading. I evidently ended up with way too much of this virtual currency, which at that point you couldn't actually sell it. Whatever you put into this world, you could never bring it back into the real world. And the idea spawned upon me to just create a virtual currency exchange. So my first, that was pretty successful. I was like, whenever a player wanted to leave the game, I was buying their currency and all the items super cheap and reselling it. I was making $1,000, $2,000 a month. So it was pretty sustainable for a 13-year-old. And it made me a very difficult teenager. I'm not going to lie. Like at each point, I'd just be like, I can afford my own apartment. What do you mean?
Yeah. So I think we could say that you were way ahead of the Bitcoin thing, because you started really early, back in like 2010, 2013, something. But you're right. Like at that time, technology has always been here, like way back before. But it's only in the recent years that we started to really know how to leverage it. What really inspired you to start those two businesses? Like, did you have any idea that?
No, please ask the question first. Any idea?
Yeah. Did you have any role model that you looked up to and kind of, they kind of help you to fuel that entrepreneur spirit at a very young age?
So I had a few role models, but I think one of the main things is when you grow up in a difficult childhood, one of the ideas is nobody's going to look after you. It's up to you to make yourself succeed. And the world's out there and the world's a vicious place. So the only thing you can control is your own life and your own destiny. So if you're struggling, there's nothing stopping you from starting a business, right? And I'm very strong opinionated about that, about being that, you know what, somebody can start something, whether it's selling packets of sweets next to the road or something, that as long as you're trying to do something. My role models included, it's a South African guy who actually started a bank for the low income sector, and I always looked up to him. And for me, it was, how do I build a bank? At a young age, I was like, I want a bank. It's still something that's in the back of my mind, but so for me, it was, how do I sustain myself? How do I create something that's sustainable for myself? And knowledge, just learning.
Yeah, that's true. I have heard a lot of stories from people that are now very successful, and like the base that really got them going at the time was that they had to sustain for themselves, and not for themselves, even for their family as well. And usually it's your that would be your hunger. Like you're hungry because
Yeah,
you literally don't have anything to eat. So, you're hungry in terms of food, hungry in terms of like free time. So that really pushed you to kind of make something on your own. And that usually like the
yeah.
biggest motivation that they would have. What was the most challenging thing that you had to overcome at that time when you just started your business at the age of 13, beside the age thing?
So, so the age thing played a big role, right? And I'm very lucky. I got a lot of support by the founders of the game when they found out my age. There's some things that I can't discuss, and there was legalities. But I think the biggest challenge was the banking. Like I could never bring those funds into South Africa easily. I had to keep creating fake PayPal accounts. They kept getting blocked. Being able to bring that money into a country was a mission, but it did teach me the one thing about startups that I'll always stick to, and even in sales, is hack it, find a way. Nothing's impossible, and sometimes it's not the most perfect solution, and it's not a scalable solution, but just make a way to make it happen, and then figure out how do I do this better later on. And that's true for sales, and that's true for any business. Is like, you know what, it's not always going to be easy, and sometimes it's not a scalable thing that you do. You just figure it out and then iron out the details later on.
Yeah. So could I say that is the biggest lessons that you learned at that time, or was there like any other, you know, bigger lessons that you actually learned at the time, and it helped you with your following business after that?
Yeah, so I think it's of course that which I struggled with, but it's people skills. Whether it was in an online world, whether it was in real world, anything, the people skills relayed. And it started how can I say, a passion within me of being like, hey, I actually like connecting with people, and how do I provide a good service for them? So some of the skill sets that I learned at that point was community matters. Building a community around your business matters, because your community is going to follow you and they become your loyal fans and supporters. And then also playing around, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but I was playing around with loyalty systems. I was like, how do you reward your loyal customers? How do you create a hype around it? All those kind of things. So yeah, I think the key takeaways and lessons there to me were just make things happen, iron out the details later, and be community matters. Like the bigger you can build your community and the stronger you can build your community, it will work out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I myself even struggling. I'm even struggling with building a community on my own, and even for AHA Slice. Um, what is your go-to strategy in terms of building a community around the business that you run?
I think the first thing is knowing what your business is and what your product and service is, right? So there's two ways of doing it. You can either build a community around your interests and your passions, and then find a business that fits into that and solve their problem. Or if you're in a business, you need to figure out what problem you're solving, how you're affecting these people, and whose lives are you going to make better through solving this problem for them. And around that, you start building a community. You start asking, hey, what's your thoughts on this feature? Where can we improve? I always tell people that in my entire career, my clients are never just clients. They become friends. I still have clients from when I was 16 who I see them as, hey, it's not just an acquaintance. I can hit them up on WhatsApp and be like, oh man, I've got a new product. And it's a stronger relationship, where a lot of people see selling as, hey, here's a product, buy these AirPods and cheers, bye, forget about you, never contacting. And I think that a lot of salespeople make that mistake, where keeping that relationship and actually learning more about that person, that client's not just Apple's client anymore. That's your connection and your client for life. No matter where you go, no matter what business you start, you've built this community around yourself with a product.
Yeah, but how I can see that it takes a lot of work to build a community, and it even takes more work to maintain the relationships with those people in the community. And so I think the biggest challenge is to be able to balance between your personal life and your work life. And how was that when you were doing the two business? Because really, I understand that you were 13, and when I was 13, I was only going to school. Going to school was my biggest job at the
Yeah.
time. and also along with having fun as well. So how were you able to balance between that and the personal life and the work life at a very young age?
So for me, there is always a blurred line. There's always been a very blurred line between my professional life and my personal life, which I only a few years ago started defining of like, wait, this is this, and how to keep them separate. At a young age, it very much intertwined. Like I was very much my social life was within inside this virtual world. It's up until about the age of 15 where I was like, no, actually, I don't want to live inside a computer. I want to live real world interactions and stuff. And that's where I went into hospitality and worked with real people, which was the difference. So, I mean, later on in my career, it became more evident where I was very career focused. My personal life always took the hard hits. Previous relationships, they would always be like, listen, what's your priority here? Like, my priority is my career. And now, if you have to ask me that same question now, I'd say your personal life should come first, but it's easier said than done depending on your situation. When you're young or when you're just starting off, you need to have that drive. You need to have that goal of, hey, you know what, this is coming first. I like nothing else matters. And that's how you learn skill sets to sustain yourself, in my belief. You'll also start having the people in your personal life that support your goals and support your dreams. And I had to go through multiple lessons and people that I sat with and people that I value. Like I mentioned, a South African guy who bought a bank, who I remember sitting at his house. And I mean, I was idolizing him. I think I was probably like 18. I was idolizing him. He had the Ferrari, the yachts in Seychelles, and all that. And I'll never forget him telling me, like, I was mesmerized at this yacht and this lifestyle. And he's like, just remember what it cost me to get here. He's like, it's cost me a divorce. I've got family that only spend time with me when they want money. Or who do I trust in life and those kind of things. And at a young age, or when you're busy just trying to push for that success, you forget about the reality of it and how lonely that can actually get. Till today, I think that I found stability. Keep your circle small. I always believe like your actual friendship circle will always remain very small, but super trustworthy. And they're also the ones that will call you out, being like, "Listen, you're being ridiculous now," or "Hey, carry on doing what you're doing."
Yeah, I that's very interesting because that leads me to that makes me think about the hustle culture that was very popular in the past few years. People were
Yeah,
glorifying that kind of lifestyle where all you know about is work because if you work hard you get money and then when you get money you can spend on whatever you want. But it's kind of like a vicious cycles where you work, you get money, and then you even want more money, and then you work even more, and so you kind of forget about the all the core values of humans, families and friends, and like actual genuine human interactions. So
yeah.
now let's go back to that first sale gig at your very first job at Swillen Dan Smart. Could you tell us a little bit about what it is and like what led you to that role?
So I was actually part of the founding team of it, and how it started was I of course left this online business, but during that time in the small town I grew up, I of course made some friends and stuff. And one of my friend's fathers always used to follow this journey and this business that I built online. And then I went, like I said, into hospitality, and I was a waiter for a while. I believe no matter what, and I mean the money was not nearly as good as what I was making online, but it taught me people skills. And at one stage, he came to me and he's like, "Listen, don't you want to build a business with me?" And I was like, "Sweet." And we built Salanam Smart was a local Groupon competitor. We were building like, you know what, go on there, you get a free item. We were making our money off of advertising from the businesses, and it definitely steered my career in a certain way. Because at that point, like, yeah, okay, cool. I was part of the founding team and we designed a website and stuff, but meant doing the dirty work of walking down the streets of the town, going into the business, talking to the business owners and being like, hey, this is our product. You're going to pay us to advertise and give something away for free to your clients. And how to interact with these business owners. What was challenging, and in my whole career, it was something I had to face again, was at a young age having to work with a lot senior people who are your adults, people who are looking down on you, and how do you position yourself as, hey, you know what, this is a real business, you have to take me seriously. And it became when you can show them that A, you're knowledgeable, you know your product, and B, you're actually providing them a service that's assisting them. It's not just some kid that's like, oh, here we go, do this. It's, hey, this is actually going to help your business. Here's actual proof of how it's affecting your business, that type of thing.
What is it about the sales industries that pose to be appealing to you?
So a lot of people would think I'm an extrovert. I'm actually introverted. It's funny enough, like nobody believes it, but I'm actually introverted. The sales industry, there's three core things. A, you are the master of your own fate. Like you can either make a lot of money or you're gonna fail. And it's I believe that sales, every business needs sales. It's the driving engine. Without sales, that business is not going to survive. So you're the heartbeat of the business, and that just fuels me. It means that, okay, listen, we've got to make this a success. Let's see that. I think it's competitive. I don't really play sport, so my competitiveness comes out in like how many deals can I close, competing against myself or other people. And lastly, but I think anybody in sales would enjoy this, is people, getting to understand people, getting to know what makes certain people tick. When selling a bottle of water to one person and to another person, they're going to look at it in different ways. And in sales, you have first-hand experience of different people's perceptions and the way they perceive things. So for me, as I mentioned earlier, I'm always wanting to learn more and a quest for knowledge. And for me, understanding that and the psychology behind it is what's been amazing in sales. I always tell people I'd go study psychology. I'll never be a psychologist, but it's super interesting to me to understand the psychology of people. And through sales, you start learning the psychology of people and what really gets them to drive.
Yeah, so I guess we can say that you must be really good at reading people.
I mean, I am scared of saying that I'm good at people. However, in my life previously, I have, when I was single and stuff, my friends, whenever I'd go out, they'd be like, be careful of him who works in sales. I think it's interesting when you get to learn the skill set of knowing when somebody's trying to manipulate you, when somebody's putting up a false front, those kind of things. And then also being able to put up the face that you need to put up to reflect what that person needs to see, whether it's something in the company, in the service. I mean, it's a joke because in South Africa, when we were building SnapScan, if you're Afrikaans, there's this culture of saying woman tani, which means uncle and aunt. It's a respect thing, but nobody would normally say that to a client. You don't go like uncle, aunt, woman tani. You say hi sir, hi ma'am. I was like, no, if it's an Afrikaans older gentleman, I'd be like, hi, oom, hoe gaan het? And that would be like, hi uncle, how are you doing? And what I realized is, depending on the culture, it immediately won them over. Didn't matter about my age anymore. I was the door in. The minute somebody was Afrikaans, what color were, because I was like, there we go. And it's learning those little interesting things about cultures or how to show respect that get you your way in there and get you the deal or the relationship, those kind of
Yeah, that's really intriguing because you don't get to learn. You don't, not only you get to learn about, knowing about people, reading people facial expressions, like kind of guessing what kind of mood they're on, knowing what to say, but you also get to understand that in this culture, this is what's gonna draw them in.
yeah.
So I guess that salespeople must be really good at also being adaptable, being able to switch up quickly, depending on the situations and the person that they interacting with.
Yeah, I always use the phrase like you should be a chameleon. Like if you put in a room of green people, you should suddenly be going green. Don't ever lose yourself. Like, don't get me wrong. Don't be something you're not. But you're not going to curse in front of certain clients. Where with other clients, they super relaxed, and you're going to say a curse word or two because you're adapting to that personality. So I think, yeah, being a chameleon, but don't lose who you are, your true self. But at the same time, try to fit in with their culture or fit in with what you're trying to do. Otherwise, in the first place, why are you going to see that client? If they're not fitting your view in life or your product, why are you going to them in the first place? Don't put yourself in a situation that's going to go against your complete morals. Like, stand ground to your morals, but chameleon on the way you talk or the way you interact and say certain things.
Yeah. When you first start out your sales career, what are some, unconventional strategies or approaches that you use to like overcome the challenging periods, like constant cold calls or rejections? And what did you do to really stand out in the competitive sales industries?
I think there's more than one thing. It's learn as much as possible. Keep reading, or I mean, I only started reading later in my life, but keep listening to podcasts, keep seeking knowledge. The key thing that will always be a driving factor to me is gamification. Um, People are scared of cold calls, all those kind of things, and I get it. And there's a lot of ways that you can build that confidence or create that confidence in yourself, but everything's going to be tiring and boring unless you gamify it for yourself. So on a cold call thing, my idea would be create a game that, you know what, for every 100 calls you make, you reward yourself with X. People used to joke with me in my career previously where I'd be like, oh, if I achieve XYZ amount of deals, so you're going to buy me a round of drinks. And it creates this, like, it started off as a joke, but it started being like, hey, now I really just want to achieve it. Yeah, okay, cool, commission's great and stuff, but it said like, oh, sweet, I got this reward through it now. The same way is, for example, I believe in getting your hands down and dirty. Like, there's no cheat, there's no shortcut. Like, you got to do it. You got to do the cold calls. I remember with SnapScan at one stage, we printed out a map of Cape Town City. And I would, like, once a week, I'd go and I'd take a permanent walk, and I'd be like, that road, I'd take the time and walk in and out of every single business. And I'd take a permanent walk and I'd be like, that road scratched out. And that's why I know Cape Town City like the back of my hand now, because did the groundwork. And I believe a lot of salespeople these days think like there's some shortcut. There isn't. There isn't a shortcut. It's about being persistent. Um, Persistent in following up with clients, persistent in looking for new clients, persistent in the way you speak to clients. All of those kind of things feed back into the success of a salesperson. And through creating that persistence, you start creating relationships, which start forming your community at the same time. So it all interlinks into each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, my question is, what could be the reasons that makes people so scared of cold calls, or they don't want to get down to really do the dirty work? Like, what could be the reason why they don't want to do those things?
I think there's more than one reason. It's people want instant success and they think they're just going to sell 100 out of 100 or 90 out of 100. Behind the scenes is there's also a lack of confidence. A lot of people are shy, they fear rejection, they don't like being rejected. And I did a LinkedIn post about this yesterday, I think, about being like, remember, your client's not rejecting you. It's not a personal thing. You have to distance, again, your question of like personal life and career. For me, for a long time, it affected me. Like when clients were rejecting me, I'd be like down and I'd be like, no, I need to get this. Like I have to. Just to prove a point that it's not a failure or not, that's the thing. And people fear that. It's the same as when somebody does bad at school in the sport, they start feeling down about themselves. And it's like, hey, it's a bad run. It was a bad match, but it's not the end of the championship. Like, you got to keep going for it. And people need to realign their mindsets on that in sales. So when you're doing cold calls, you need to aim for how many rejections are you going to get, not how many wins are you going to get. But through these rejections, you also need to go and be like, hey, why was this rejected? Did I call this person incorrectly? The next person I call, I'm not going to say that exact same script. I'm going to be like, how do I alter this to do it better? Or how do I change it? So I don't know, like that's the way I would explain it. Is your confidence also comes in multiple ways. There's the tricks from like Tony Robbins where you can go stand in a mirror and you should repeat to yourself like, I got this. And I agree with it 100%. Like before important call, even at Specna, I used to tell guys, like, before I've got a call with a client, I'm doing 15 push-ups. 15 push-ups because my confidence is going to be high. My energy, and it works. Your confidence higher, you feel better, your energy is great, you're like super pumped, you're like, let's go. And for some people, they're just sitting there in a chair picking up the phone, and I'm like, listen, I would die within 10 minutes. Like, I've got to move around, stand up, have a sticker on your computer that says I will win, so that each time you get rejected, you're reading I will win. It's that constant mindset of like, okay, cool, there's a lot of rejection going on, but where's the positivity in this? Because after 10 people saying no, you're going to be like, oh man, this guy's going to say no, and it's going to relay through the call and you're creating it. Where if you're going onto that call being like, hi Audrey, this is Wesley, like super pumped up, you're enthusiastic, and that enthusiasm and confidence also comes through knowing your product. Like end of the day, know your product, otherwise people will know you're not confident about it.
Yeah, it feels like you also did 15 push-ups before we start this webinar because you got like a lot of energy going on.
It's I'd say like invariably most people know me as being super highly energetic. I actually didn't do 15 push-ups. There wasn't space for it. But yeah, like it's I believe that whenever you're really talking to somebody, whether somebody's asking you questions or whether you're talking to somebody, nobody wants to talk to somebody that's just like, oh man, life's going on. It's okay. Yeah, Audrey. Like, no, man. Look, why? Who wants to listen to this person speak? Like, no.
Yeah. It even feels like they don't even want to be here to have the conversation. They just want to get it over done with and then go somewhere else.
Exactly, and it's part of the skills that I believe, salespeople learn is how do you lift the room, read the room. If somebody is having a bad day, don't try and sell them. Like first, try and get to know them, have them laugh a little bit. You have to frame that mindset in the right way. That if they're in a negative mood, they're going to see your product negatively. If they're in a positive mood,
Yeah.
they're going to see your product in a positive light, and they're going to be enthusiastic about it. I'm not going to try sell somebody that's going to sit there and be miserable and grumpy. I'm going to be like, I'm never going to get this deal closed. So
Yeah,
either
that's true.
I reframe this energy in the room, or I reschedule this meeting and be like, have a chat today, don't talk product at all, and move on to another meeting with this person where I can actually talk product.
Yeah. I think our audience are very eager to get some tips from you on how to excel in the sales industries. So talking about, because in sales industry you have to make, I don't know, on an average per day you make more than 100 calls, I believe, or less or more. How do you keep your energy, consistent throughout the whole day?
So I believe in two parts of it. A lot of people will laugh at me and still say I'm old school. I enjoy going to actual businesses and walking in there and just finding the owner alongside cold calls. I don't really believe in cold emails. I do believe in building up a relationship with people first. So the conversation we had about social selling and how LinkedIn works, where people just go connect with somebody and send a message, a sales pitch, like, dude, you're never going to get that sale. Cold calls, I think it's a numbers game, finding the right people, but who are you phoning? It doesn't just go about the calls you're making, it's about where did you get this leads list? How did you find this leads list? And why are you phoning this person? Do they even need your product or service that you're phoning? Like, if you haven't done a little bit of research about their business, even if it's just a quick Google search, being like, oh, okay, cool, you know what, I'm selling SnapScan and it's a coffee shop. I need to know how to phrase this conversation, being like, hey, you know what, clients are going to be able to pay to take away coffee quicker. You need to have a way that you're positioning your product that fits their business. Getting through the amounts of phone calls, you can't sit still. You have to stand up. You have to move around, take a break. I went to a Montessori school, and one of the interesting things you learn in a Montessori school is you should drink water every like 15 minutes to 30 minutes. The same way, if you're doing something that's draining your energy, like cold calls, at times you need to stand up, take a walk, go back, reframe your mind, go back there. Find the gamifications, like I said, like if you're going to get for 100 calls, be like, okay, cool, at call number 25, I'm going to give myself a chocolate. Like I always used to do this with my sales teams. If we were sitting in a room together, I would buy a big box of Lindt chocolate and I'd be like, okay, cool. For every 5 calls you make, you can get one chocolate. Or for every 10 deals you close, you can get X. And it creates this fun game to yourself and your mind of gratification.
Yeah, I think people kind of underestimate the little things that they do that will kind of boost their mood when they're at work. So, for example, um, if you work for 23 minutes straight, you should really stand up and even like do a little bit stretch for like 5-10 minutes. And I mean, I do that. It really helps, but I think a lot of people kind of underestimate how impactful those things can be. So yeah, like that's one thing that we should all keep in mind and like kind of practice. Um, my next question is, what are some key qualities or characteristics that you believe that they are essential for achieving sales excellences besides being good at people skill?
So it's interesting. People always ask me that question, and I think it's pretty much the same as what you're asking me. When I hire somebody in sales, what am I looking for? So I believe sales can be taught, people skills can be taught, the way you talk to clients can be taught. But the things I look for is energy. I don't want somebody that hates life, that's sitting there, that's just wanting to sit still. Like that's not going to work. Sales is a competitive environment. Sales is fast paced. You need to have high energy. So I look for energy. B, I look for uniqueness. What's making you unique? What's making you different to the person next to you? Whether that is that, you know what, you're a motocross racer in your free time, or you have your own bakery that you do on weekends. What is your unique characteristic? And then also competitiveness. You need to be competitive.
So, in terms of uniqueness, does it always have to be something that's good, or can it be something that's not entirely bad, but if you kind of tweak it a little bit, it can be something good?
Give me an example.
Um, let's say I am afraid of being judged as not being smart.
So
And it's a double-edged word. A
yeah.
double-edged word is because I tend to be very careful with what I say um, around people. And I mean,
So I
like,
think
essentially, that's a good thing. But at the same time, it kind of stops me from, maybe speaking my mind. Maybe I have a brilliant idea that if I speak it out, it will be everyone will think that it's a brilliant idea. And it can actually work. But it's because I fear being judged, so I just kind of keep it to myself.
So I think that's more of a personality trait than what I meant by uniqueness. By uniqueness, I meant like, what are you doing in your free time that's making you unique? Are you doing a unique sport? Are you playing football and you're the goalkeeper? Are you what are you doing that's making you unique in your free time? Maybe you're somebody that's like, hey man, you're flying through books. I'd be like, amazing. Or you're an author. Like if you're an author in your free time, I'm gonna be like, damn, that's really cool. But the reason why I asked the uniqueness factor is it gives you a talking point, because when you're trying to build rapport with somebody, those kind of things, you have to have something interesting to talk about. You need to have a passion or something unique about you that you're talking about at the same time to create interest in you, because at the end of the day, your client's not just buying your product and service, they're buying into you as a person. So the uniqueness, I don't think I look for as a personality trait per se. I look for uniqueness in your passions or what you do in your free time.
Something that kind of defines
Yeah,
like who you are, kind of thing.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're gonna like this questions. Sales calls are mostly done through online meetings. I mean,
Yeah.
like, providing that the post-COVID world, it's increasingly to be online meetings. How do we handle body language when we are behind the screen?
Amazing. So it's something I've been thinking a lot about lately because, of course, I prefer in-person meetings. But the world's moved, the world's changed to this, and I actually like it. Like I really do enjoy remote meetings. It opens up your network so much wider. You can do business internationally. You can sit on an island. It doesn't matter. And I think the key thing is if somebody's got their camera off, insist that their camera comes on. Like if they're not having their camera on, why? Like you're not invested in this meeting. So I age salespeople that whenever you join a call, have your camera on, because then it's going to show you prepared and it's going to show your client that, hey, listen, you're actually here to do business. B, I think there's little things that you can look for with online sales calls. Are the people looking away? Are they looking at you? Like I've got super ADHD, so I'm always looking all over the place. But my body language is still instructed towards you. My whole body's still facing you. I'm not sitting like this, talking to you. My body's still facing you. I'm still making you laugh. I can see that smile. So it's little characteristics that you still pick up on sales. And that's why if you're doing a sales call, try and insist that your prospect has their camera on, because you want to read, are they positively receiving what you're saying, you can still see that facial reaction. You can still see the little laughs, those kind of things. With the cameras off, you can't do that. And that's going to kill your sale right there. You're not going to be able to read the person. They might be distracted reading a book while listening to you do your demo and your presentation, which is not going to be great.
Yeah. But when I was in school, I mean, like, even when I was doing my internship, and they were talking about when you're in a meeting or when you're like on a virtual call with someone, you shouldn't be moving around too much. You should, I mean, like, you should really pay attention to how you present yourself on the screen. What are your go-to tips to make sure that our body language comes across well in a virtual sales call?
100%. I think face your camera. I'm currently not sitting up straight. I would normally say try and sit up straight. It creates confidence, and I've got confidence. So I don't need to sit up straight. I've got the confidence and the high energy, but it depends on how you're feeling. Like, sit up straight, your posture. Don't be afraid of using your hands. Just because you're not there in person, your hand movements are still part of your conversation. The way you explain, you're restricted because you can't see them. They can't read your entire body language. You can't read theirs. So there's certain things that you have to make use of your hands. Or you have to make use of smiling and the way you speak, your tonality. Use the key senses that you still have available to you, with that's not available because you're not in the room with the person.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been a really interesting conversations and fun, like for me at least. And I'm sure our audience have enjoyed it as well, and yeah, they definitely got some of their own takeaways from your sharing. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end. So thank you so much for being here today, Wesley. Hopefully, in the future, I'll see more of AHA slides at Astrolabs. When I first saw it, I actually made my day. And to our
Yes.
audience, if you have enjoyed our today's webinar and want to see more, you can check out our YouTube channel here for our past webinars, or visit the link below to see what's coming up next in the future. But thank you, Wesley, so much for your time.
It's a pleasure, Audrey. Thanks for having me, and thanks for inviting me. And again, actually, just well done on your effort, right? Like, you did the LinkedIn thing correctly. You sent me a message being like, hey, so you're using Astrolabs, you built slides at Astrolabs, you built this relationship, jumped on a call with me. You weren't trying to pitch me, you weren't trying to sell me, you were literally just gaining knowledge. How did we hear about you? All those kind of things. And through that, you create a fan and you create a community. So I think you did really well there, and I can really recommend that people follow those footsteps, follow what you did on that, and that you should carry on doing more of that.
Great, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Wesley.
Awesome, Audrey. Have a great day and enjoy the heat.